2 months ago, I asked the question.
And I was curious, with the new features in the iPadOS, is this the perfect machine for photographers and videographers looking to travel light, easily back up, while still being able to edit photos and videos on the go?
Before I give you my verdict, you should go watch that video because I show exactly how the new iPadOS manages files, supports external drives, it's pretty snazzy, and adds a bunch of new features including Sidecar, where this iPad can act like a Wacom tablet for this machine. I'm not going to talk about all that again. The original video is linked right down below. Go watch. And then come back to this one, because here I want to share my opinion. So I've taken that big family road trip where I brought along the iPad and a whole bunch of devices. And after that big family road trip, I headed off on a photography workshop in Alaska where, due to float plane weight restrictions, I had to choose laptop or iPad. So for my future travels, will the iPad replace the MacBook? So, for my future travels, will the iPad replace the MacBook? No. Hold on. Before all of you excited iPad Pro owners and soon-to-be owners hit that thumbs down to disagree, let me explain. First, absolutely, the iPad Pro can be used as a lovely backup machine, saving your photos on the go, and saves you a noticeable amount of weight, especially if you go with just a bare iPad and no keyboard case and fancy things like that. And based on the comments on the previous video, there are many of you that's working very well for. But for me, there are a few deal breakers, and when I've got a limited budget to spend on one device, I can't afford both. A laptop offers greater flexibility and efficiency when doing the tasks I need to do. Let me explain. First up, the ease of working anywhere. The stable base of the MacBook really works better for me in a variety of situations. And while it's nice to hold this very powerful iPad Pro in my hand and use that pen, the long-term work, the lap is more comfortable. And yeah, you can add a keyboard case and it becomes much more like a laptop, but I still find it a bit awkward. And then let's talk a little bit about efficiency. I mean, the tablet offers the advantage of a touch screen, but when I want to quickly import and backup, the full version of Lightroom Classic that's available on a laptop does it without any babysitting. I create my import settings at the beginning of each trip and basically have one button to press, starts the import, and simultaneously backs up to additional external drives. It's great. Checking that it's all been imported, that's really easy. I do think as the iPadOS develops, we'll see some options that make this process much easier. But currently on the iPad, you import images into the iPhotos app, then you can copy them to external drives. Now, depending on how you shoot on SD cards, this might work for you. But then you import the photos into Lightroom and you can rate and edit and all that stuff. And now, it's not a huge difference, but it requires more time and hands-on time than I like to give on a trip. Most of my trips are workshops and I'm actually teaching, and I'd love to start an import and then be free to help others do their import and answer questions. But even on the family road trip, I found that it was taking more time. Campsites at night, here I was babysitting this as I was importing, when really I just can walk away from this. And now I am still on the beta. The public release hasn't happened yet, and it is the most recent version as of recording of this video in late August. It's still a bit buggy and it doesn't always recognize the drives. And also on workshops, I'm often importing video, usually from multiple devices. The stuff you see in front of me, that's usually what I take on workshops to kind of capture everything that's happening. Separating that from photos, keeping it all categorized and organized, the MacBook really excels here with easy drag and drop, fast preview of the files, and easy renaming, keeps it all organized. That speed just isn't quite there yet when working on the iPad. And being able to use Lightroom Classic on the road and at home, well, I'm just very, very comfortable in Classic. I know the keyboard shortcuts, they're extremely efficient for me. And so again, that makes this device just that much easier. I love the idea of cloud sync offered by the Lightroom CC, but even on the family trip where we just stayed at a condo in Colorado, certainly not a third world country, the internet there was slow enough that it took days to sync. When I'm on more remote trips, that's just not gonna work. Though one commenter on a previous video let me know that they just let it sync when it returns home, so that's certainly a decent workaround. And finally, very specific to me, on almost all of these workshops that I participate on, we find time to teach editing and review participant photos, and a laptop allows me to teach using Lightroom Classic, the program most participants are using at home. So that's a very specific niche requirement, but it's another check in the pro column for the laptop. So while I think the iPad Pro is quite an amazing machine, the power packed in here is impressive, the features are great, but if I'm only going to have one machine for on the road, a small laptop. It might be a bit heavier, it might be a bit more expensive, but it offers just that greater flexibility to use for the way I work. I do think the iPad Pro can work very well for many of you. It clearly is already, as some of you have commented on that video. And I think with future upgrades to both Lightroom, to the Photos app, and third-party solutions, I think we're going to see a much more automated solution for import and backup. But for now, I am going to be sticking with a laptop. If you haven't watched that previous video, it's linked down below, along with my recommendations for iPads and accessories. The good news is, now with the support of external drives, you don't need to buy the largest capacity iPad, and that can save you some real money. So I have my recommendation linked down below. I do want to take a moment and highlight two comments from the previous video that I think are worth mentioning. Creative Pick by Vishu says, for their photography work, they use a third-party app called File Browser. It allows them to access their hard drives via SMB. So at home, they can access their MacBook as a remote NAS from the iPad. And when they're out on the road, they use a module that turns their external hard drives into a network drive. So that's pretty cool. Adam H., he is on the 3rd public beta, similar to me, I think. I might be on the 4th now. They're really hoping it improves before release. It's quite buggy. They've been using Apple's SD card reader to transfer images to the iPad on iOS 12. It's painless getting them to the camera roll via the Photos app so that I can edit them in something else, but that doesn't work in iPadOS 13, and using the Files app has been unreliable. It definitely doesn't seem less buggy than when I first tried it, which is disappointing, but again, I think they will fix these bugs. But it's interesting that they're back on iOS 12, and this is working for them. They're just not really talking to external drives. If you've got a bigger hard drive now, you can use it to back up. So, if you found this video helpful, I'd appreciate a thumbs up, and don't forget to hit subscribe and that little bell to make sure you're notified of future videos. Would you like me to join? Would you like to join me on the next Alaska Bear Photography Workshop? We have a few spots left for June 2020. It is going to be an amazing trip. There's a link for more information right down below. Thanks so much for watching. Bye-bye.